9 to midnight, midnight to 4. Bad. So bad at all. And they're quiet. She has to wake her up. So they don't even wake me up. She just gets out of bed, picks her up, goes in the other room. It's back. I'm not sure when. I'm sleeping. Back in that bed. It's good. Yes, I hope it continues.
Run it as long as you can.
Yes.
December 22 special council meeting.
All set?
Yep.
I'd like to bring this meeting, council meeting for December 22nd to a start. And everybody, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'm going to be taking this agenda out of sequence, and the first order of business will be roll call. Thank you.
That was a good move from the side, absolutely.
That was perfect. Councilor Albert,
Here.
Councilor Bickford,
Here.
Councilor Brunel,
Here.
Councilor Crafts,
Here.
Councilor Kobe,
Here.
Councilor Machivier,
Here.
and Councilor Ward.
Here.
Council orders, resolutions, and ordinances.
Okay. Last weekend, or for the last 2 weeks, basically, I've been in contact with Tracy Austin, trying to come to a compromise for this school budget. And I've come to something that's not too bad, if we can come to an agreement on it. So I'm gonna put it out there, and then I'll have the audience comment on it, and then we will go back to the consent agenda and have everybody else comment on it. Okay, this is a one-time offer, and only if it passes this time. I'm gonna throw some figures out there. They're rough figures. We were apart on the budget by $83,874. Ed found through just a missed billing, it was nothing major, $8,000. So that brings it to $75,874. We are offering to pay next year's, or pay the SRO budget for this coming half for $58,000. So, I'm sorry, in this math, that we're $17,874 apart. So the only thing that, and I'm gonna have Tracy explain this later on, is we would like to find some way to pay some of it back if there's any money left over in the school budget. And that's about the only disagreement, or the only sticking point in it that I can see. So, now that I've explained everything, I'm gonna go, have Jody go to audience participation, and we will, I'll let the audience discuss it.
Audience participation and response for agenda items.
Anybody want to speak? Mr. Willie?
Excuse me. Probably going to be clarified by Tracy, but I also had another question, but I'll wait till later. The money that you spoke of, the leftover money at the end of the year, is that like the money that normally goes into like the capital reserves? Is that?
I believe so.
Okay.
Basically what I'm saying is, we've been finding money. Mr. Green has been looking real hard, and he's found some. And Ed's been looking hard too, and, you know, together they found some.
Yep.
Maybe there'll be some more found.
Yep.
And that's basically, that's what we're just trying to do.
Well, that's, I'm all for settling out. If we're that close, then.
Yeah. It's like I said, we're just, and the way I'm saying it, if they can't pay the whole $58,000 back, well, maybe they get 10 or 15 or 20, maybe they can do something like that,
Sounds reasonable to me.
okay?
Thank you.
Anybody else? Well, if nobody else, I'll close audience participation and go back to the consent agenda. Tracy?
All right, first of all, I just wanted to find, I think clarifying for everybody, is some of the items for the bond were charged to, let's say, facilities lines, if it was a fencing item. It is now being charged to the bond. So when you say fined, that's what I just want clarification for everybody in
Yeah.
fined. The second part of that is, I wanted to hand out overview of reductions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I need one. Sorry about that. All right. So I did give you an overview of what the reductions have been since 2010. And I highlighted the 2015-16 and what is in there. Coming up with the remaining part of this proposal would be to continue not filling the PE health and the halftime volunteer coordinator that we left open because we did not want to hire those positions and have to lay off or terminate a position mid-year. So that is where that would go. The part about the $58,000 and then payback, one thing that I need you all to be aware of is with that offer, because of the numbers the way that they were voted on last time, there is no $58,000 in our budget. So in order to put those contracted services back into our budget, not only will we have increases because of the excess payments for the bonds, as well as the rebate money won't be there, the found money won't be there, and then having to put the $58,000, kind of like putting the position back in. That legal defined number that you voted on last time does not give us the opportunity to expend anything besides that. So for me, knowing that our position is that we want the SRO officers in our schools, obviously, and that those would be put back in, but that will be an increase on our budget next year. So when we talk about unanticipated revenues, we don't know from year to year. It used to be very plentiful in the 90s when the state would reimburse you for your contracted services, the speech therapists, the OTs, all of that. It isn't as free willy anymore, getting those reimbursements back from year to year. You submit for payment, but not always do they get paid back. So we operate with the unanticipated revenue, helping to offset and defray taxes in that manner. So in a way, it does come back to the town to defray those positions. And the way I see the $58,000 is that you are offering to pay the remaining amount of our portion of the police officers that are considered our SROs, but then when they're not in the school, they're one of the police officers on regular duty. And that $58,000 would be worked into the next year's budget, which would be part of that offsetting already with unanticipated revenues. So my preference would be to not have any strings attached because we need to put those back into our budget as it is, and that's where we would use that money to begin with, is to offset those issues, those increases, because we also will need to look at putting some positions that we were not able to fill or couldn't fill because of the voting number back into our budget as well. don't know if anyone has any questions.
Did I hear you correctly, Tracy, in saying that you don't intend to hire the volunteer coordinator in the grade 4 position?
The grade 4 position has already been taken out. If you look at the reductions, the one that says
Oh, down below.
down below,
Gotcha,
positions not
gotcha.
filled, not currently filled, are those two.
And you don't intend to actually fill those this year?
That would be where we make up the difference.
Difference associated with what we're talking about here?
Mhm.
Okay. And what were the,
We already took out
Outright.
half of the volunteer up at the top. If you look at that, there was already half that was
I just
already
answered
gone.
my own question. I remembered from the presentation you guys gave us before.
I do have a question. I just want to understand a little bit better. So the proposal here tonight is, there's a half a year left of this calendar budget year. The proposal is to take $58,000 to pay for the remaining half of the SRO budgeted for this calendar year, with the understanding that if there's something in the next calendar year's budget that we're building on, if we come in, I say we, the school comes in with a surplus of some monies somehow, some way, that there would be a good faith effort made to pay some of that $58,000, pay towards that $58,000. And I want to hear what you're saying is that when you go into budget season for next year, it's hard to anticipate any revenues because you really don't know what you're working with. Is that a fair assessment?
That's a fair assessment, but also that just looking at the revenue sheet that we had proposed for you to vote on the items, I can already tell you that we are probably we are starting off with 300,000 in the hole.
Okay, and just because of some of the things
Because
listed
of
here.
using the rebate grants, finding the bond, the found money, that's what everyone wants to call it.
Yep.
We still haven't increased taxes to pay for the bonds for the gym, and that we have had that in our budget. So if you look at all those numbers, I can already tell you it's going to be a big number
It's a deficit just to start out with, okay?
without knowing what, state revenues will be. I mean, it's a dance for us. We start in January. We hope to see numbers in February. We don't really get them till March. Then we wait for insurance numbers. Insurance numbers are going to be higher or lower. It's kind of the same dance that you all do with revenues and insurance increases. It just seems like on the DOE side, it's a little bit slower.
So the picture really won't get clearer until we get closer to May. Probably
Yeah.
April, May, it's where we start to get, the numbers start to fine tune and adjust a little bit more.
Right.
And by that point, we'll have hopefully done some work together to be prepared for
Next
assuming
year,
a couple of different,
16, 17.
couple of different scenarios and how we're going to deal with it, whichever way the monies shake out.
Right.
Okay, thank you. That helps clear it up for me.
Any other questions before?
So, the way it's presented right now, I just want to, I don't know if you're speaking for the whole school board or not. The way he presented it, you're not going to accept it, right? Is what you're saying?
For myself personally, I can't speak for my my other members here, but for me personally, with strings attached, it doesn't seem like it's a fair, good faith effort of we're going to offer this, but you need to pay it back. It doesn't seem, and especially when in the same fiscal year, I'm not sure how that can work, knowing that what we have approved for a budget is actually the 75,874 of a difference. So how can you pay a bill that is higher than the number that was approved?
Isn't the agreement that should they find something else or should something else come up, or after the audit that there's some excess money there, isn't that what we're talking about? That they would pay some of that back, or what they could pay
Audit
back?
money is from last year's, not this year. You can't use that for this year's budget. You can't do that. It always goes to 16, 17.
All
It's
right.
not able to be done that way. It isn't like it's a big deposit into your checkbook for the 15,
Right.
16
Yeah,
school
yeah.
year. So it's a deficit.
Does everybody out there know where the $58,000 came from? Would anybody like to fill the audience?
The $58,000 is the remaining balance of the school's portion of the SRO's officers' salaries and benefits.
That's right.
I understand what that number is.
Mhm.
But where did you find it to give to them to pay it?
Well, they are paying the 16, it's the school's portion of the SRO's budget is
It's
$116,000.
not that I'm asking you, it's
Yeah.
that I'm wanting to know that everybody out here in the audience knows.
Right,
I've read
okay.
it myself
Okay.
several
It's,
times. That's what I'm trying to get, so that everybody knows where it came from,
It's
why
a
we
s-
just
it's a
didn't
s-
magically find 58 grand.
It's a 25-75% split between the school and the town. The school's whole complete budget for this year, or for the SROs, was $116,000. They have paid half of it, the check's in the mail. So we have, in good faith, have offered to pay the other $58,000 to try to resolve this situation. That's,
That comes from,
Yeah. Can I say something?
Yep.
I just want people to understand that we don't have 58,000 to give the school. What we're not going to do is bill them for the second half so they wouldn't have to pay us. But we're going to have a revenue shortfall by doing that because it's part of our commitment. We don't have funds in our budget to cover that. And so we're going to experience the revenue shortfall unless for some reason we get revenues in unexpectedly, or the estimation of my revenues, unless we get more than what I estimated. So as it stands right now, I don't know if we can cover that because the commitment's already done. And that 58,000 from the school was to cover the expense, which we're not going to have the revenue now. So I think a combination of if we have any monies left over in all of our expenses, and if we've over-collected in some of the revenue lines, it might cover that. I can't tell you right now. But I think what Roger was getting at, the so-called strings attached, if we get close to the end of the year and you see that you're going to have money left over in your budget, I think what the expectation would be is we could bill you for a portion of that. That's where I think that's coming in. It's not a transfer of funds or monies from your surplus. It's that right now, what council wants to do is not bill for that 58,000 for the second half. But on the other hand, if you're going to have 100,000 left over in your budget or 50,000 left over in your budget, you need to understand that we don't have the money to cover that 58,000 either on our side.
So it's discretionary then. I just want to make sure that I'm hearing that, because when I hear strings attached, I think that
Yeah.
it sends a negative connotation across the
Right.
board.
It's not,
And I didn't-
it's not automatic.
and-
It's
and
if
what I heard you
get
present was
together, your
not at
people and our
all
people get
a-
together and
a-
look at the numbers, and you say, yes, there's some money left over here at the end, and then in good faith, you're going to give some. You're going to give a
So
portion.
when I heard from Roger,
Right.
what I
And
heard
it's-
from the chair
Yeah.
is that the way you presented it was very clear that there is no set expectation or
Right.
any sort
Good
of
faith.
recourse, exactly, a
Right.
recourse amount. I heard you say $10,000 or $15,000. If you have 10,000 or 15,000 kicking around, and
I'm
you can throw it
asking
back at.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I want to make sure I'm understanding, and make sure that everyone out
Right,
there is
and it's
understanding as
not
well.
that they're going to pay us
There's-
back, it's the fact that
That
we
they didn't
can
get
bill
billed.
them for it,
Yeah.
because
Right.
it's something that we already anticipated
And of
from
course,
them as a
in
revenue.
good faith means just that.
Right.
If we see these revenue shortfalls that Ms. Austin's talking about right now, which is they come in, and it's realistic based on what she's got in front of us on paper, that they're going to start in a hole to begin with. But if, for some reason there is some revenues available, I think that would be the expectation, is that we would be able to bill for some of this.
Right.
Whatever would be a fair and reasonable amount, and not saddle them with the full 58 if they're already starting in a hole.
Right.
Would that be fair?
Yep.
That's what I got from you as
Exactly.
well.
Yeah.
Is that the way you
that's
understood it
what
as
I'm
well?
understanding it being presented.
Perfect. Thank you. I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Everybody out there understand it?
Dean?
Everybody else?
I would like to take a moment with my committee, though, before.
Go ahead.
Everybody up here get it? Those of you who haven't seen my kid.
You got
Pass
pictures?
it right down. Yeah, my girl
Makes
took one
sense.
today and sent it to me.
No, it does, that's why I'm saying.
If it gets dark on you, just touch it, it'll light back up. She's been too good. One more time.
She got a lot more hair than you?
Oh, yeah.
She
Born needing a haircut.
exactly. Very cool.
She's been so good.
She's a doll.
I said.
Beautiful, must be
Better-
gained
I
in
thought
weight
my-
already?
I thought my son was good, she's better.
Yeah.
She's been better through the night,
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
less crying.
he's old enough
Those
to
of
know
you
that
out in
now.
the public, we are looking at Counselor Bennell's new baby girl.
Yes.
Camera, zoom in on it.
All right?
Oh, she is, she's so much fun. She is
You
busy.
need to take that and put it up in front of the camera.
Yes,
No.
Yeah?
No. My girl says my daughter's not old enough to be famous.
No,
We don't post anything about her,
No.
we didn't win a champion.
you're better off.
You wanna see it, come on by the house. My
See the
girl's home
real
for
deal.
12 weeks, she'll let any of you in, just bring some slippers. Try, you gotta take your boots off, wash your hands.
And that's just it's all about good faith.
Well, it's on both sides. Because in that regard, these two positions are not being filled so soon.
And she's such a
Yeah,
sweet.
I mean,
it's
that's
amazing how they
heartburn
do
there
that.
as well.
That shows.
That's what they're willing to be able to
To
meet
To me,
this offer.
that shows clear commitment on that side of the house, that they're not even thinking of, she talked about putting stuff back in, but not those, and those are the bigger ticket ones to me, because those both require benefits, which we know is.
All right, it looks like the consensus is that it would need to be the 58,000, and we would need to use our undesignated amounts for the following, to fill the gaps for the following year, instead of the delayed billing, which seems to be kind of what it is being considered. So,
Tracy, can you, elaborate a little bit more on that, please?
it sounds, the way I'm interpreting it is you are loaning us the money. And I don't really think that that's considered a real compromise in loaning the money, in order to fill a gap. I think it's more supposed to come together, and maybe I'm not stating it, in a less offensive manner, but, it seems like here's your 58,000, to keep the SRO officers in the schools, but we want you to pay us back at the end of the year. We're gonna need,
We said
That's not
that
what
you
we're
could pay
asking.
some,
right, but,
something
You have
back.
it.
but in an agreement of some,
Yeah.
that's a very broad term
Well,
that I'm
that's
just not
only
comfortable
if
with.
it's there, you may not have anything to give back. I mean, we may be eating the whole 58,000.
And I understand that. And I know too, I mean, just from conversations that some of the leftover money of positions that have gone unfilled is also in those line items as well. Just like we have that for, the amount that we are looking at because we didn't fill items. So I'm just,
Okay.
I don't want us to miss an opportunity here. I really don't want us to, and I absolutely respect and appreciate where the school committee is coming from on this. I clarified that point because I wanted to get clarification for myself, but I also, I wanted to hear our chairman and the rest of our councilors chime in with saying that there's absolutely zero expectation of paying that $58,000 back if the school is not in a position budget-wise when we sit down to do the numbers. If you don't have it, we're not looking for anything. And if it's a metered
the
approach.
definition of not having it is different for me because looking at what we are going to need, the undesignated amounts, because we get undesignated amounts
Right.
that we use to offset our budgets, to help defray taxes.
Right.
So those numbers, looking at what we are looking at for a hole to fill, every dollar is going to be needed. So when you look at the end of this budget, whatever is left usually goes either into undesignated or into capital reserve.
Right.
Every single penny that is, in my opinion, looking at what is coming up, is going to be needed. So one person can look at it and say, you have $200,000 in your account, you can pay us back. I look at it and say, my checkbook's already in the negative and I can't pay you back. It's a different type of looking at a checkbook.
Yep.
And for me, that's the scary part, and that's the part that I am having a hard time with for myself.
Okay. And so I think I hear, and I don't want to speak for these guys, but I can hear what you're saying here, and so I want to understand a little bit better. The way that it's been presented from the council is that we get to the reviewing for next budget, which will be upon us pretty quickly here.
Yep,
So
2
when we
weeks.
start to get down there and we worked up towards closer to those numbers we talked about later in the spring, I think that's when really the rubber's going to hit the road for everybody. I don't think anybody's going to I don't think we're saying that there's a contingency here that when that undesignated funds money comes in, okay, you got 200K in there, so pay us the full 58. I think what we're going to do is, as we get closer to the final numbers, when we can see what it looks like, when we realize that it's not estimates anymore, and these are the hard facts of what we're going to get, then from there, if there's any residual, then we talk about what's fair and reasonable. Do you think you can do it? I don't think anybody's going to come and say, you need to do it. You need to do full
That's
frame.
my fear of history,
Okay.
is that it is going to be all or nothing, and if it is nothing and we try to defend or give examples as to why, then villainization starts to happen on both sides, and I'm fearful of that, to be honest.
I am too.
So that's where I am coming from. And knowing that that 58,000 is not in our budget, that 58,000 is going to have to go into that budget before. So I don't understand, I understand but don't understand the convolutedness of it.
I hear what you're saying.
Can I say something? I just need, by not billing you, that creates a shortfall on our side, on the municipal budget side, because we have no way to cover that now. So the shortfall goes from your side to our side. And I think that that's why council wants to try to bridge that gap if there is anything left over. There may not be anything left over on your side. There may be some, but not enough to even contribute back to us. But in the end, it's a shortfall on our side unless we overcollect our revenues and underexpend our expenses. We're going to have a shortfall, and that's going to have to come from somewhere. So
That was going to be my question. If they don't have it, then how are we going to cover this?
we'll have to cover it from undesignated fund balance or
Does
overlay.
the area of concern that most bothers the school committee side is the fact that it's out there as at any point in time they could call in the full 58, or is it who determines that whether or not you
Well,
have?
who determines a reasonable amount? Who
There we go.
determines when it's
So,
getting billed?
can we
Who
put some-
determines
can we shine some
whether
light on
there's
that?
a-
Okay.
I mean, just so you know.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to speak.
You lead, you're doing very good
I know
now.
one,
I don't want to.
Very
I
good.
don't want to speak. I don't want to speak out of turn here.
No,
but I
you're
just wanna-
doing very good.
I just
I have-
wanna-
know
I
one
have a
line
proposal.
item already that we are going to look to need to do a transfer because we had a hard time finding bus drivers and custodians. We have a shortfall in maintenance. So we already know that right now, talking today, there's a $30,000 hole that we need to find in our own budget to be able to cover those expenditures. So those happen throughout the entire year. So I'm fearful. The whole budget season has gotten everything so nerve-wracking, at least for me anyway, and so tight that any hiccup is going to be a large hiccup, even if it's a little hiccup.
Right. No, I think
And I understand yours is the same way. So I'm not saying I'm speaking when I speak mine. That's my area of expertise. I understand all are in the same boat, but I'm just trying to explain what I'm seeing.
I have a proposal. Halfway between 84 is 42. The council's actually proposing 58 associated with that. And I see from the two positions that have been proposed here that the school's actually talking to what they're going to pony up on their side. What if we were to subtract the two and maximize the cap that would be potentially called back if there are funds at 16 to get to the 42? Do you follow the math?
No.
no. I get what you're saying. So you're saying-
58 less 42 is $16,000. The maximum bill that the school department may actually receive, if there are funds available, would be $16,000.
Makes perfect sense from we're splitting the difference of the 83 and some change.
Yeah,
Because there's
But then
heartburn on
with the
both
under-
sides of the budget
Can
to
we
be
get
able to make
16
this
back?
work.
What's the difference of the
If-
58?
if there's
not the
something, yeah.
83?
What's the difference of the 58, not the 83?
I don't know.
if we split the difference of the 58, then I would think that if we're looking to do that, then I would just say, if we were looking at that as a proposal, split the difference of the 58 and say, that's it. Meaning, there's
We
no,
won't have-
we're not,
let's say
we're
you
not
would
gonna
have
come to
pay
you
no
for
more than
anything.
half of the 58 back, if we put a cap on it, if that was possible.
What is that number?
29.
I th- I-
29
People know,
and
so
some
people out there
change.
doing the math, right?
29,000 and some change would be the cap of what we'd be asking back, if it was available.
How does that make you feel? Got a number?
It's a number, I can speak again to see what the consensus is. We can't take a legal vote, but, I can find out what the
If, yeah, if you
consensus
need,
is.
if you,
and-
yeah, if
That's
you,
what we're here for, Tracy. Try to
Go
work
do
it
it.
out.
thank you. Nice job, fellas and ladies.
I like my number better.
I liked your number too, but I also
Yeah, no, I
understand.
get where it's
That's
coming
it,
from.
that's it,
And that,
right?
because
You hear
the only
that?
reason both sides got heartburn to
The
make
only
this work.
reason I like your numbers
think
is
that
for
should
me
be the
with that,
final
like
number. That
42
shouldn't
splits
be-
it down the middle, but I like the way you were thinking.
don't
that,
like
I'm
it?
saying,
Gentlemen, this is why I like this. I was out last week doing this.
Oh, yeah, and it's one.
Now you guys can all do
Exactly.
this. This is good.
I couldn't agree with you more. Open discourse, I think that's all we ever wanted, all of us.
Well, there's a possibility that they may find some money at the end of the year, and that's what this is really all about. You understand that, correct?
I'm
Everybody
thinking
from my
it's
left?
going
I think we need to, the whole thing is putting that over their head is saying, if you do this, if we do this, then you have to do this. If we just
never once-
eliminate that line,
But I've never once heard that
How
said.
do you
There's
feel
no
about
half
that,
of
Ed?
it.
How do you feel about
Right.
that?
It would be it wouldn't even, no expectation. I haven't even heard an expectation, which is fantastic. 'Cause I think that allows us to have this kind of discussion without people wrestling.
but I understand.
I know it's up to us
where-
guys.
Revisit it later on.
I understand ultimately it's up to
Well,
us.
same thing on this side of the table too.
Ed?
Right.
Because in that
I
regard,
always like to
where's our
chime
fund
in on
balance
Ed.
going?
Hey, listen, I'm listening to what Diane's saying over there, saying, this ain't no pie in the sky here. We gotta figure this out.
It's not there.
It's heartburn.
My fear is what if they don't have anything and then what,
We don't have it either.
right.
But we're saying to them, we're willing to accept the fact that you might not have anything here. We might have to go back to the people who hold us accountable and say, you know what? We made a good faith effort move here with the understanding that it might help, we might get some help back. We didn't, so we had to do the next best thing. We did that to move the town forward.
Keep in mind, this is a one-time offer.
I heard everybody's in the room.
Just trying to get what we're
That's
trying to do.
that's why
Exactly.
when they came back.
Because I'm tired of it.
That's why I'm saying. I agree.
Everybody up here agrees associated with it. Everybody's in the room. You leave the room, things break down. This is the first time that both groups have actually been in the room too long. It's a positive step for them.
Yeah, it is. So far, so well.
People still
Not
talk.
count my chickens. Let's just.
Keep going up. You're doing a good job.
So now if we don't have, if they don't have the money and we don't have the money, then seriously, how?
It'll come from undesignated
Come to
surplus.
undesignated.
That would be your maximum.
Right, but there is money there just in case. So technically, I mean,
Well, no, it's not intended for that.
Right. It runs.
You know the situation.
I mean, it's not like,
It's an emergency fund and not really.
right, I understand, it's not like we're flat broke with no pennies in our pocket.
We don't want to, yeah. We don't
Is
want
what
to
I'm
be,
saying.
and I think that the way we get this is the way, big fan of maximizing the undesignated fund, just like anybody else. I think we haven't done a good job of putting that, and I'll say, in recent years, we have. I think we're building it back up, so I'm fine with
Just
that.
starting to build it back up. So we really don't want to be taking it away.
I think that it would have to be very much an emergency situation to, if we were gonna be stuck again, we wanna kind of jump into that.
Right. So my question is that if there's no.
Yeah, it's actually a percentage.
We have something to fall back on for emergency.
Exactly.
That's what I wanna
You have a safety net, I hear what you're saying. Absolutely.
And I just want to assure everybody that there is something just in case we should have
Like a
something
couple
not
million.
overlay. Not overlay.
We've been there already.
Those are different.
Yes. And I.
Well, again, I think we should all have our own little corner to talk in
You
as
ought to go
well.
out, because you're all on.
I know. I think we tried that.
I think if we all gotta do a little circle, I think we all should be able to do a little circle right in this back room.
No, not without going into executive session. You guys gotta go into executive session. You can't do that.
You have to go into executive session and do
You
that.
can't do that. They've got different rules than you guys have.
We have an executive
Can't,
session.
not more than,
They got different rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't
How many of
go
us
in
can
for
go in another
budget.
room at one time?
Three.
Three. Step away behind the mic.
I don't think you're gonna meet your 7:45.
Huh?
I don't think you're gonna meet your 7:45.
Well, we never know.
It's a no-brainer to me. Speak to us.
Don't do it. It's not for you to do.
You ready?
Need a clarification.
That's right. If we need to,
We gotta keep our budget balanced.
But we're not gonna, we may have under expenditures at year end, or we may have over in our revenues. Right now, is, don't wanna take it now. We can figure that out closer to the end of the year. But they gotta know that we don't have.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's one, no.
Can I say something, Roger?
Any clarification on the number math guy again? Can you
Okay.
do that?
There were two numbers. I understood theirs too, so go ahead. Which one do you want?
Wha-
And she needs to say something first.
The last numbers that were spit out on maxes, on billing and all this other stuff. They have notes, but I have them sporadic on my list.
Mine was
So if
half is 42 on both sides. The offer was for 58 from the
58
council.
from the
You take the
council.
58 minus the 42, I came up with a 16 to be able to say, okay, at the end of the day, the school department had to come up with their piece of the 42,000 to meet in the middle. Now, what was the other discussion, half of the 58 would be capped at 29,000. It was just straight math to be able to say the maximum that they would potentially be looking for if there were funds available would be 29,000.
Okay.
That one is simpler to
All
be
right.
able to swallow.
That's the one that we were
That's the-
thinking that you guys were
That's
on?
that's
I
that's the
don't
one
believe
that that's the
so.
last one that they had talked
Yeah,
about.
that's
Correct.
the proposal.
I wasn't done.
I know you were.
He's taking us to school.
I'm not gonna be real fussy with this, cause it looks like we might have a deal, so we're gonna,
Right.
yeah,
That-
I'm letting,
I wouldn't get hung up on the fund balance either, because we'll know closer to year end if we've
right,
got,
right.
if we got enough left in our budget to cover it,
Yeah.
or if we've got over-collected our revenues to cover it. It's not anything you have to decide tonight. You'll have to decide it later on if we have a budget deficit, so.
Right.
You'll have to appropriate it from someplace else, so that we don't get an audit comment.
Speaking of the audit, where are they at with that?
It'll be in January, right, Ed? January? They finished up last week, the audit? It'll be in January, we get it.
So I feel like it'd be really hard to.
Number 58. Oh, this isn't, I don't know if that's exact. Is half of the, is that, half is 58 exactly?
Because I was sitting up and all of a sudden it would go like that and I think I was
Okay.
falling over and my arms would be flailing. There's a,
Right.
when we were doing
Right,
ergonomics.
but I know it was
and
58 something, I thought it was 58
I'm like,
even.
what did you
Half
do?
is 29,000. So if they come up with
Put it on the other side.
Yours is
budget,
rocking. Yep.
9,000, they can pay that back.
No.
Right in the middle.
Sorry. Gave me a heart attack. You did. I won't do it again. Where did you find that?
Small is fine, don't worry about it.
Sit in the front?
What's that?
It's a no-brainer.
There's only that one. I know it was that switch. I just don't know how he.
Cassie, when, just wanted to be excused for next.
Yeah, I go into surgery the 5th. So, more than likely I'm not making it that day.
If you need another one, let me know.
What was it, day surgery?
Yeah, well,
Well, there you go, you'll be out time then.
it's supposed to be, but my history, I end up in the hospital for 9 days, so.
I'm just kidding.
I can, but I don't think you guys would want me here.
No.
I did better today. Monday, when I processed the bulk of payroll, I only had like 2,007. Jessica brought back the stands that he built up.
Oh, really? Yep.
That's, yeah.
I'd like to have a standing on my desk too. What if he can make another?
I didn't realize we did musical chairs without the music up here.
Put that up, see nothing yet.
Yeah, right?
How much you
Now
guys have
measure
for
your
the
height where it needs to be.
It's Christmas.
They built the
Thanks
first
for the
round
early
right
Christmas
above
party.
out front.
If I'd have known it was gonna be like this, I'd have brought my
Like
stand.
standing.
I'm gonna bring my free cake.
I know.
He does do that.
I know you do. I know you do. I was gonna bring my free cake when I heard Alan was coming in.
Yeah,
We're all
you
set.
had your He's in the house.
Less than 3,000 steps. I would have had to literally walk or run till I went to bed to hit 10,000. There's no way, you know? So I thought at least standing up, maybe, it's gotta be better, to some extent.
We had an executive session with him.
And I get a hug.
Still ain't seen nothing yet.
Habit of like,
I know. Me too.
Pretty quiet here. Executive session.
Aren't the ones we have?
no, we have to buy you one. I went out front and stole the one that Jessica had with her desk. Brenda has it stashed in her office.
What?
We just have to buy one.
Nothing wrong with that either. Plain is good. Plain is good. Yeah.
And then I think the only other thing would be a anti-gravity stress mat.
Yeah.
I think they make you have that if you have a standing workstation. At least Ryan said he was making it. I said, I think I can do without it. And he said, you can't. You're not allowed. So I assume there must be some rule.
Must be.
Right.
I'm real happy to be a part of this, because I think this is the kind of common ground stuff that helps us move forward. I think we all want the same outcome.
If they refuse it, then we're going back to square one again.
Right, that's why
This is a one, we're not, we're in negotiation.
I know you heard me when I said I don't want to, it felt like we were drawing lines. in the
It
sand
is.
real freaking quick, and I was like, nope. let's
Four
not-
of us here,
let's
that's,
not-
this is it.
Let's not do that. Let's not,
I don't wanna do that. I really don't want.
I want us to know that, I want to hear them. I want everybody to know. Done. Right.
so I am clear, just, it's the 58,000 that you will be contributing to the SRO officers. And with the max of 29,000 to be paid back if the funds are there. And, okay, so the consensus is, and we didn't vote, just so everybody knows. After 4 votes, this is a compromise, and we believe that it is something that we can make work. So it can go out to the public to see if they feel the same as well. But next time, if there, I'm hoping there is not a next time, but if there is a next time, if we could please, from our side standpoint, do a workshop first and then hold a business meeting, it would ease the anxiety of, I think, Diane, myself, and the superintendent, and the chair of the town council regarding kind of the unorthodox format of this evening. So if that can happen in the future.
Well, let's hope it doesn't happen in the future, okay?
That makes sense.
So
Okay, is there any more discussion up here?
Well, I think we need to just
let's clarify for the public. Go ahead, Eric.
that this is the offer that has gone out, and as Roger had already mentioned, that this is a one-time deal. We're gonna put this out, and this is only if the school budget passes. That the school budget, if it doesn't pass, then obviously we go back to the board and it starts all over again. So, that was what we had said, is only if if this budget should pass, that this deal is good. So that is on the stipulation. I don't know if you understood that before. I'm assuming, okay,
No, it's-
okay.
Excellent.
I'm just making sure. Just
So-
making sure that everybody understands what's going on, that's all.
We like to make sure we're clear so everybody in here hears, and hopefully that everybody out there that is watching understands where we're at.
What we're really looking forward to is everybody outside, out in camera land, understands too.
Social media.
Yeah, the social media, everybody that's listening, that's all we're asking, so. Okay,
There would need to be a formal motion. With that, everything stated, I would prefer.
you want, okay,
Yes.
Let's do it.
you want me to make a? Yeah, okay,
Get out your glasses and get the microphone closer.
yes, Chris.
Please.
Okay, well, I'm gonna sit right here, and we're gonna make the motion together. Why don't you come right up here? This is a joint thing, we're gonna do it jointly. Okay, now what do you want on the motion?
I don't get to make the motion because I am not.
I will make the I will make the motion. We are gonna build this
Roger
together.
makes the motion for 58,000 for not defraying the second half
Okay,
of the
58,000.
SRR bill
Thousand,
to the school department.
right, for the one half of the school, yep.
And if there are funds at the end of this budget cycle, the cap for the payback, if any, is at
Of
$29,000.
29,000.
Are you okay with that wording?
I believe you need to add another piece into that, Mr. Mativier.
If the budget passes, this would be accepted. If the budget doesn't pass, the deal is off,
Okay,
As amended.
as amended.
I'm gonna second that motion.
okay. You're gonna second the motion when I read it, okay.
Oh, I thought I had, okay, my bad. New guy, sorry.
I did say yes.
No, it's all good.
Roger, why don't I read the order number
Okay,
first and lead you into it? Council orders, resolutions, and ordinances, item number 2015-367, 2015-16 school resource officers or SRO budget.
okay, we are gonna vote on a budget of $58,000, which is one half of the SRO, school's yearly budget. We will, the payback at the end will be at capped at $29,000, if they have that, even that. And this is all on the basis that the budget passes.
Yes.
January 12th.
January 12th, okay?
Yes.
Look to Chris, he's gonna be the guy.
Looking for a motion?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
I think that's.
I need a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
All in favor?
That's it.
Second is that.
Pick anybody you like.
Huh?
Who first and who second the adjourn?
I second it.
Okay, then.
I first.
Yeah, done.
Sixteen the right way.
Happy to work with you,
Hey.
Now you got it.
Go out.
Yeah.
Hey, lady,
Some
get
heavy
bumping.
lifting.
Sorry.
Us on board.
Guess what?
Eric,
I don't,
forward, right?
I don't email, I don't Facebook.
We hope so.
It's okay. There's heavy
Sir?
lifting all the way around.
Hey,
We
Roger,
need
good
to make
job.
this happen. Thanks, sir.
Always interesting to have
Well,
dialogue. Good
I'm
battery,
gonna
well, it's
tell you
always good.
something.